It has been 2 weeks since the last garden update, and I have been gone out of state for the last 2 weeks, so today is the first day I've been in my garden for 2 weeks. First thing you'll notice is that the Malabar spinach is gone. It was beautiful while it was here. We didn't particularly like the strong flavor of the spinach. Although it was pretty, it didn't provide a food source for us. You'll notice all the Malabar spinach plants coming up from the ground here. Those will need to be weeded out, and we'll do that very quickly with the two-way hoe, which I absolutely love. It almost makes weeding fun. It certainly makes it fast and easy. My wife has pulled out all the strawberry plants that didn't make it. We received our replacement strawberry plants. We'll be planting those tomorrow. Her 4-foot by 28-foot long mid-ladder grow box is still sitting here and ready for the wood. She's done a great job of putting 2 layers of exterior paint on the wood to make the grow box last longer. The carrots are still doing great, and so is the lettuce. So these leaves here are plenty large enough to harvest. We'll do that today. I'm either going to stake up this lettuce or completely remove it from the garden because I don't like to have plants laying down on the ground. The bush bean plants are covered with beans. We had green beans last night for dinner, and I obviously need to come out here and harvest some more. I do feel I am getting more production from my vertically grown green beans than I am from my bush beans as far as the amount of beans per square foot. But since we weren't using this grow box for anything else, having bush beans in here, it's worked out great. The tomato plants continue to grow and are producing tomatoes. My wife says it's been enjoyable to watch the tomatoes turn from green to yellow to orange. These are ready to harvest. While the tomato plants are still producing tomatoes, they're not producing at the same rate as they did in the summer. I don't know if it's because it's colder now or because these plants were made from suckers. At any rate, it's nice to have fresh tomatoes from our garden in the fall. We are getting close to harvesting the sweet potatoes. I stuck my hand in the middle of the bed here just randomly, and I touched several sweet potatoes that were growing throughout the bed. While I was gone, it looks like some worms had a heyday on these leaves. Because we're harvesting here in the next few weeks, I'm not going to spray with any kind of a pesticide. Also, I'm going to be pruning these plants again. The end of the box is right here, and you can see the plants are way out here. It makes it difficult to get around the garden, and I think it is pulling nutrients from the sweet potato itself that we want to harvest into the leaves. So I'm just going to be cutting these off and removing them from the garden. My wife harvested a few pomegranates while I was gone. We're looking forward to enjoying the first pomegranates from this bush. The coral vine that we planted on the back fence as a bee-loving plant has come to blossom, and the honeybees are really loving these plants. Out of the 2 squash plants I have, one is producing fruit right now, and we're probably just a few days away from harvesting some of our first zucchini. And there's a lot more coming on. Although the pumpkin plant has only been producing male blossoms, so I don't know if we're actually going to get a pumpkin out of this plant this year. These were planted pretty late in the season. As you can see, there's one of our honeybees helping pollinate the plants. This fig tree was planted in spring this year and is doing very well. It has its second crop of figs on it. The first crop of figs were eaten by the birds because I've never grown a fig tree before and wasn't aware of what was going on. Now we're keeping a closer eye on these figs, and we're really looking forward to these ripening up here in probably a couple months. The tree really does have a lot of figs all over the tree. As you can see, I've already gone through the garden this morning and I've done a little cleanup. I noticed here on the cabbage that we had some damaged leaves, obviously from worms, so I removed those leaves. And on most of these leaves on the bottom side, I found some large black worms, which I promptly squished. And then I checked the rest of the plants for any other worms. I would prefer to mechanically remove the worms, in other words, remove them by hand, instead of spraying. I don't see any more evidence of worms here. I'll keep a close eye on the plants and see if I can keep that under control. So when I go through the garden during the day, I'll typically just gather up the dead and dying leaves and throw them in the walkway, and when I'm done, I'll just come through the walkway and remove all the dead leaves. The broccoli seedlings that I purchased are doing well. I'm very happy with them, and so is the cauliflower. Again, for some reason, this particular cauliflower plant hasn't grown as fast as the others, but it's still giving its best. As you can see, there's still some cleanup I need to do in here. And whenever I see these discolored leaves, I just pull them off the plant and remove them from the garden. These little seedlings I planted up here are doing great, especially the spaghetti squash. It was planted a week later than the other plants, and they're really doing well. As you can see, we're getting the normal leaves on here, so they're getting ready to be planted in the garden. These are going to still need some more time here to get larger and get their true leaves on. While I was gone, my wife faithfully watered the seedlings using the Mittleider Constant Feed, which is 2 tablespoons of weekly feed for every 3 gallons of water. I'm really debating whether to remove these red pepper plants because they're still producing peppers, which we're harvesting and drying, but they are blocking the light from getting to the squash plants behind it. These kind of choices as a gardener are kind of difficult to make, but really I should have removed these plants because they're past their peak. The cucumber plants are looking great. We've got a nice cucumber down here on the bottom, and we have dozens of other cucumbers coming on throughout the plants. As you can see, my Kentucky Wonder green beans are doing very well as far as production. They are great tasting. As I mentioned, we had them for dinner the other night, and we really enjoyed them. As you can see, we've got great green beans all the way through the plants. We've got some great looking butternut squash here on the plants, and actually the squash here in the front is younger than the squash in the back. For some reason it's growing faster. There aren't a lot of squash on the butternut plants, but the acorn squash plants are covered with fruit. It seemed to me that they had to get about 2.5 to 3 feet tall, and then about every other node here has fruit on it, and it's really producing a lot of fruit. Since we really like the acorn squash, this will be a joy to harvest. Another project this week is to add the curtains or the walls and the ends to the in the garden greenhouse, because it is getting a little cooler and the wind is picking up, so I want to protect the plants from the wind and the weather. Well, there's another quick update from the LDS Prepper Mittleider Garden. If you're new to this method or haven't got the materials yet, please use the links below this video to learn more about this high production gardening method and how you can grow fruits and vegetables year-round. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. And by using the Mittleider gardening method, you can enjoy a great garden in the fall.